Whoo, what's going on? What's going on? On the way to the gym. It is what it is. But anyway, so I don't know. I'm seeing a bunch of things where people are talking about Terrence Crawford possibly going to PBC just due to the fact that he hasn't signed an extension with Top Rank yet. He was quiet for a good amount of time, and if you've seen any of my videos, I've been I went from there's no way he's gonna sign to I still don't know if he's gonna sign to quote PBC, but I was 50-50 on him leaving Top Rank. Just kind of with some of the things that was said by part of his team. Part of his team was talking about how come October he's gonna be a free agent. So after he's a free agent, we're gonna see what what then Al Heyman has to say, and we'll see if these guys quote still have these excuses. Even though the same person made it clear that, hey, Top Rank has made a lot of promises that they haven't kept, and also that they believe he's the reason why a lot of fights didn't get made. But then he went on to trash the PBC fighters, which made no sense. You're saying this is the issue, but then you're trashing these people over here. Didn't make any sense to me. But then I'm confused at the same time though, just due to the fact that Bomac, when they were talking to Bomac was screaming F, PBC, it was F, F Earl Spence, and F that fight he's doing with Manny Pacquiao. No one cares about the fight. You had Bernie screaming about no one quote somehow now no one wants to see that particular fight, which makes no sense because he was all hyped up when he thought Terrence Crawford was the one that was going to fight Manny Pacquiao. But everybody, to the side, push everybody to the side, and kind of sit there and look at Terrence Crawford and look at what Terrence Crawford is doing. I could understand if it was a situation where Terrence Crawford's like, yeah, now I'm gonna put myself into a position to get all the fights that I've always wanted. You know what I mean? People have been talking all this crap, but soon we're gonna see what the deal is. We're gonna see what's up, because it's gonna be no way to run. That type of thing. Kind of like, yeah, I'm about to make this move where it's gonna put me into a position where there's no excuses, and I have the opportunity, to get these fights. So you can still yap about the whole no excuses thing, but still, or whatever, but still, like, hey, I'm about to put myself into a position where I get all these fights. Something like that. I could see, wait, a couple more weeks, and we're gonna see what's going on with these people. Something of that nature. Then I could be like, okay, some moves are gonna be made. Or something insinuating, hey, there have been circumstances that have kept me from getting these fights, but those are about to get pushed to the side. Even subliminally, saying things, I could understand. But that's not necessarily what's coming out of Crawford's mouth. Crawford, especially when the WBO did this mandatory, put this mandatory out where he has to fight against Sean Porter, Terrence Crawford screaming about, now I've been trying to get these guys to fight me for so long, but now these top tier guys, one of them is being forced to fight me now. One of them can't duck me now. These are the things that he was saying, which make no sense, just due to the fact that we know that when it came to Sean Porter, he's been saying no to Sean Porter. He's been pushing Sean Porter to the side, saying, he has other things going on that he's going to do, and, Sean Porter needs to stand back and stand by, things of this nature. When it came to Keith Thurman, they were talking about how Keith Thurman doesn't have a belt, and Keith Thurman isn't doing nothing in the sport right now. Just negative talk, brushed off Ugas to the side. You had your promoter saying he's not going to pay for any of these fights. They talked to Ugas, I believe, one time, never spoke to him again. Never tried to negotiate with a Keith Thurman. Nothing of that nature. So we know all this information. That's why people have been really down on Terrence Crawford, and especially the last, I'll say, 6 months or so, because it's been very clear that he and his team didn't want to fight any of these guys. And that's become very clear to the point where you can't even argue it anymore. So that's been the issue. So for him to come around and act as if no one wants to fight him, no one wants to combat him in any way, and it's him trying to, and acting as if he's been trying to really get these fights, and he's been really trying to put that foot forward and grind and do whatever it takes to get these fights, when we know that's false. It makes you kind of have to step back, because then it's like, okay, what's really going on then? What's really going to go on? What is this guy, really going to do? What's he going to do? I think he could fight Sean Porter. That's something that could happen. But I think if you did fight Sean Porter, I think it would be a situation where it's like, oh, well, Bob, he came up with one of his promises. He said he would get this done, and he finally got us a fight. Because what Bob Arum also does is that sometimes if he gets put into a space where, all right, I'm going to lose this guy, even though I'd rather not put him up against these particular people, I'm going to lose this guy. So since I'm going to lose this guy, I'm going to say, what the hell, go ahead, I'm going to set this fight out. I'm going to set this bout up. Where if, if he wins or he loses, I'm going to make good money off of this particular fight. And if he loses, I still keep him so I can still generate funds off of him. We see him do that with Ramirez. Ramirez had no fights left on Top Rank. He was going to be out. That's why they set up that Hooker fight. And Ramirez got I don't know how much Top Rank took from it, but it was a $4 million payday when he went to the zone. Chavez Jr. was going to leave Top Rank. That's why they got that's why the Martinez fight was made. He was going to leave Top Rank. He wasn't going to sign no extensions, no nothing, unless he got that fight. So they went ahead and they gave him that fight because he was going to bounce. He was going to be out of there, and he ended up signing an extension with them. So sometimes things of that nature does happen. So it could just be a situation where we're going to lose this guy anyway. So since we're going to lose him, we might as well, just set this fight up where we can make money, or either way, where we end up being good. If he beats Sean Porter and he signed back to us, we just won't give him the other fights. We won't put him into the more dangerous fights, and we're good because we can ride off that win for a very, very long time. If he loses, it's cool too if we sign him to an extension because we still have him. We can still build him back up, and then put him in a position to fight for one of these belts, or go back to their philosophy, because what they believe is that Earl Spence is going to end up leaving the division, and they believe they can, basically take over the division, once Earl Spence is gone. Even though that's not happening, in my opinion, because that's going to be John Ennis's division, and he's going to be the king of that very shortly. It's going to surpass all these other guys, But again, we have to actually see, because, a lot of times, like Lubin, everybody thought he was going to be this, and we saw what happened with that particular situation. So either way, you still, you end up still winning. They're getting 30% off of him right now, so they're making a good substantial amount of money off of him. And when it comes to all the back end money, all that other stuff, they know how to rob their fighters. They do that all day. I remember when Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather was fighting, and they did all the contracts, and Floyd Mayweather came out, and he's just like, yo, they doing that boy dirty. They doing that boy dirty. You could just see the look on his face, like, wow, in astonishment on how bad Bob Arum was doing that guy. And then the fight comes up, and everybody's getting their checks, and word comes out about how upset Manny Pacquiao was with the check that he was receiving for that particular bout. He was pissed, So, hey, but that's how Bob Arum does. So if Bob Arum can still keep his, his clutches on this kid, he will. And if he has to set up a bout like this in order to do that, he will. So just because, let's say this bout does get made, people shouldn't just make the assumption that means he's going to sign the PBC or he's going to sign some kind of lucrative deal with them. No, that's not necessarily the case. This could be a situation where it's just that Bob Arum's kind of put into a corner and he's like, all right, let me do this. Because you can't play that starvation game with Terence Crawford. Even though he's getting 40% of his money taken away, 30% from his promoter, and then 10% from his other promoter. I think it was 8 or 10%. It doesn't matter. He doesn't live an exorbitant life. He's not running around with 50 chains around his neck. I don't believe he's a gambler. He's not addicted to anything, none of that. He puts most of it, he takes care of his family, but then puts most of his money away. You see, that boy stays super laid back. So he's not the kind of guy that, is extending himself. If he has to, like Mikey Garcia had to sit out, he'll sit out. He's cool. It's not going to affect him in any way. So we have to see how everything goes when it comes to this. But this assumption that, because of the way things are going, that means he's going to sign the PBC. I just think if you look at Top Rank's history, and then you also look at, Terrence Crawford's history. Because regardless of what Bob Arum has said, negative things he said about Terrence Crawford, how he's pissed and trashed Terrence Crawford in the press for whatever reason, Terrence Crawford had this weird loyalty to this guy, where he doesn't necessarily want to leave this guy. So I believe it's a situation where if he, gets handed a little carrot, which would be Sean Porter, in a bout where it could be a tough bout, but I'm sure they believe that Terrence Crawford can still win it. If he boxes and he moves, he can win this fight. It's not like it's a fight that, he's not going to win. He can win this bout. If it comes to something like this, I think they're like, cool. Let's go ahead and do it. We can do this. But also, he could sign an extension. The bout could be, coming up, and he could catch a 19, just like Tyson Fury, just like Teofimo Lopez. Where in that situation, Sean Porter's gonna be like, yo, F that, I gotta go. And he's gonna go his own way and go do what he gotta do to make that money, especially at this late part of his career, knowing that he's gonna get a title bout within the next year anyway. But we'll see how it goes. For now, like, subscribe, share, I'm out.